My appreciation for Congresswoman Sewell taking initiative in this issue also. She has been speaking out. We have been speaking out. We have been writing. We've been meeting. We've been doing everything, and I appreciate the work that you have done. Second, I want to apologize. A woman named Connie Tucker died. And there's an event for her tonight in Selma that started at the same time this event started. So, but I came anyway, but I do want to make it back there and pay my proper respect. She did a lot of work with the Bridge Crossing Jubilee, but she has been fighting for the rights of everybody since the 1960s. Third, just a quick announcement. There was a caravan that was set for Thursday and Friday. Thursday was going to be in Bullock, Macon, Butler, Limes, and Wilcox, which would have been tomorrow. And then the next day it was going to be in Hale and Green and Pickens and Sumter and those particular counties. That has been continued. It's been continued until next week. So if you were planning to be at the courthouse tomorrow, don't come. It's going to be next Thursday and next Friday. Then let me do what the Congresswoman asked me to do. In this budget, the budget initially was about $275 million short. Several things happened on the federal level that it got to be less than that. But we still needed to raise more than $200 million. We raised $60 million. And then we took $80 million from education. There's been a number of proposals where everybody was sharing it, but ultimately the $60 million came from a cigarette tax. And all of the other proposals that everybody would share across the board, everybody chip in some, simply did not work. So then that left very little money to do it. And so what we did, I didn't do any of this, but I mean the legislature. So I take responsibility along with everybody else. We opposed these things. But what we did then was to essentially level fund 4 agencies. We level funded corrections, prisons. We level funded the Department of Human Resources. We level funded Medicaid, and we level funded one more, and it'll come to me in a minute. When you get 73, it doesn't jump to you quite as fast. But then some cuts had to take place. So a percentage, we level funded the courts, the unified judicial system. That makes it 40. But then we cut a number of other things. But there was great concern that they may use this as an excuse to cut some things that they had been trying to cut before. And the driver's license or motor vehicle was one of those. I want you to know that that's an excuse. They have done an analysis of how much money they really saved by closing all of these. It's 31 across the state, but it's 11 out of 13 in the Blackbelt area. So they saved $100,000 by doing that. So it's an excuse. It was something that they wanted to do anyway. But they also cut a park And I think it was 5 parks, and 3 of them were in the Black Belt area. One in Dallas County, one in Roland Cooper here and there, and one in Choctaw County. And then they closed the armories, and an extra percentage of those were in the Black Belt. So the Black Belt has been treated very unfairly in this cut. But now I want you to know that they wanted to close the park before. So it wasn't just a money thing. They've been wanting to close them before. We had interceded a number of times to keep them from closing, and when you stop them. But now they found a way to do that. And the armorists, they'd want to close some of them before. They'd set up a commission, and they had a number on a list that was going to close by 2017. They just speeded up the process. So it's not just a matter of money. We put language in the budget, and I'm going to stop. And we put language in the budget that said, in the very back of the bus, dealing with motor vehicles, we said it is the intent of the legislature that state law enforcement agencies utilize funding from the driver's license fee increase to adequately fund and staff driver license office to minimize customer inconvenience. It is to further the intent of the legislature that all driver's license office and trooper posts in operation at the beginning of the fiscal year 2015 remain in operation during fiscal year 2016, and that any reductions in force implemented by the agency during fiscal year 2016 focus on areas of operation not directly impacting services provided. So we increased the fee for driver's license, so there's no reason for this. Okay. And then there's some other language, and I'm not going to read it, but it just said all of them were supposed to reduce administrative costs and not the services to the people. That was put in the budget. So the governor has acted on his own in terms of doing this, and while we in the legislature sure have not done a good job, but at least those issues were raised and those issues attempted to address, and that they do this. And this, of course, the driver's license thing happened an impact on voting, a serious impact on voting, because most people use driver's license for the photo ID. When you get a photo ID card, that's the only thing you can use it for. But when you get a driver's license, you can use it for a number of things. So people don't want one ID and then have to get another ID for something else. They just want one. I could go on, but I'm going to stop, and then I know Representative Kevin Lawrence will speak, and I'm going to run out in a little bit, but I'm going to try to stay a moment longer.
Before you go, though, I wanted to ask you a question. I know that you guys brought up the fact that there are other ways we could get more money into the state of Alabama. You know, I have, as a federal representative, we made sure that every state had access to federal money for the Affordable Care Act if they expanded Medicaid. And as I understand it, billions of dollars would have come to the state of Alabama had that happened. Now, it's too late for the 3-year benefit, but we still have time for 2 years of benefit. Was that discussed in the state legislature, and what was the response, sir?
We took a very strong stand on that, and we asked that they go ahead and implement it, because if you implement it, every county in the state would have new employment, because 30,000 people would be hired. And billions of dollars would come in and be spent, so all of the businesses would do better. Then people would also get better health care. It would be the biggest economic project that Alabama ever had, with 30,000 jobs. And you don't have to put up hundreds of millions of dollars to get it like we do other kinds of things. So we simply said, if you had done that, that would have been enough tax money and revenue coming in, we wouldn't be in this position. We pushed it very hard. So thank you for bringing that up, because that was an issue, We talked about it, we pushed it, but we couldn't get the governor to move.
Before we go on, we have some people that are trying to come in, so if you would be like a good Baptist and slide together a little closer, so those people that are in the back will have the opportunity to be seated. Congresswoman, please continue.
And so, Senator, you have a perspective of longevity in this country and the State House. So, do you feel that if we are diligent in raising our concerns, because it's not only, Roland Cooper, but we also have Paul Grist State Park in Dallas County that's closing, Choctaw that's closing, and the one here in Wilcox actually was just beginning to generate revenue. And as I understand, it has an amazing impact on the community. Thousands of dollars will come those weekends when those bass boats. Is there any recourse that we have with the state other than continuing to make our demands? And it has to start, and you taught me this, it has to start at the grassroots. Change never occurs at the top. It bubbles up from the bottom and reaches the top. And so that's what we're about, is making sure that our demands are heard and that we articulate the harm that will impact of these cuts. Is there any recourse with this? I know that the governor seems to be giving some movement on the DMV closures, because as you said, the actual savings were minuscule compared to the potential impact. But what about our state parks, and what about the National Guard Armory?
Well, in the past, when they tried to close Roland Cooper Park, we were able to go and say, you can't do this. But it's clear to me that they had been wanting to do that before. But we collectively, not just me, but a number of people would work and stop it. If we speak out enough, if we take strong enough position, if we take strong enough action, I think they'll go back and reconsider. Now, of course, Dallas County is considering how it can interact and keep Paul Grist going. And I've heard that there are some people in Wilcox who are trying to figure out how we can keep Roland Cooper going. But if our voices are heard, if our voices are loud enough, if our voices are strong enough, I believe that we'll save Roland Cooper, so the city, so Camden and the Wilcox County Commission wouldn't have to carry it when they already have very limited resources. And I see the mayor of Selma over there. He and I was in a meeting when it was mentioned about working with the county there to try to do it. But I think the state needs to do it. I think the state owes it to us. And I think we need to demand it with everything we got.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Sanders. I know you have to go. But I wanted to make sure that we got a chance to get some of your perspective on what we can do.
I just really apologize. I really want to stay longer and interact more. But, when it's a matter of death, you only have one time to deal with people with death. Thank you.
We're going to have another one of these town hall meetings in Perry County, and we'll look forward to having you there, sir.
Thank you so much.
So, Representative Lawrence, I know you're new to the State House, but I know that you have an interesting perspective to offer as well. I don't know what you want to add to what Senator Sanders has said, but I would be interested in knowing how it is that the armories got on the list. When, in fact, and I just want to say this, the federal government gives to the Alabama National Guard $600 million plus a year. And there's a master cooperation agreement that exists between the state of Alabama and the federal government about our National Guard that asks the Alabama state to come up with a match, a very minuscule match, $20 million. In the past couple of years, we've only gotten 7.4, and I heard that this special session for the year 2016 will go down to 7.2. $600 million from the federal government for an Alabama National Guard. Seems to me that you really can't call it the Alabama National Guard if Alabama is not vested in making sure our National Guard exists and functions. I don't know how that can come into play, but I think it's unacceptable that these federal funds are not used, spread out, and used equally among communities and not just spent in certain urban areas.
Thank you, Congresswoman Sewell. thank each and every one of you all, and to comment on what you just said. That's absolutely correct. The federal government sends down money to actually help in the underprivileged areas, and those monies are being taken and used elsewhere. Most of all of the armories that are being closed are closed, like you said, majority in the black belt communities or rural communities where economic development is already low and need of improvement. So that is definitely what we want to try to do. We want to continue to try to voice our opposition to it for number one. And hopefully, if we continue to fight, if we continue to struggle to try to make a difference, I think that we can have some progress. And in relation to our DMV and driver's license office, I was glad that Senator Sanders kind of put everything into perspective in relation to that. But what I want to do is kind of share some testimonies from constituents in reference to the impact that these closings will have on them. For one, we all know that we are already in a situation where we have to travel X amount of miles to get essential services such as groceries sometimes. Now they've put in the DMV driver's license. We have it's not in this county, but in my home county of Lowndes County, we have a county commissioner there that he would always lend his vehicle for people that were actually going to take the driver's license test. They would take time out of his schedule, 2 hours, 3 hours, or whatever the case may be, to provide a service to those particular individuals. Those particular individuals would take time off of their work schedule or their school schedule actually to go 15 minutes from home versus now having to go 45 minutes or sometimes an hour. Well, that service that particular commissioner is providing is obsolete now, because now they're having to go 45 minutes to Selma, an hour to Montgomery, and sometimes we know the lines are very long, we know everything is congested. So that eliminates a service that this particular commissioner was providing and trying to help those constituents that were actually just taken away from them. And we know that there are very, very, very limited resources in our area, and we don't want to do anything to try to hinder that. Just last week, earlier this week, the governor met with the Black Caucus and Rural Caucus legislatures, and what he basically said was, if you all commit to providing a permanent solution for this problem, then I would try to look for some type of not federal funding, emergency funding, for bridge loans, that type of thing.
What is a bridge loan?
Basically, what a bridge loan is, the state of Alabama will go out and borrow money when in terms of trying to find resources at a later date, which means if he goes through and open up these DMVs again, then in the coming legislature, he wants the rural caucus or the black caucus to vote for new taxes. And what we're saying to the governor on that deal is, Governor, you don't have a deal. Because we don't want to raise taxes on those that are least fortunate already. We want to look for any other revenue streams, like Congresswoman said, except Medicaid expansion. Even though we don't have but 2 years left, except Medicaid expansion. Give the people an opportunity to vote on a lottery. Those are revenue-raising measures right there that I think that we can, bridge the gap into this budget shortfall, and not put the burden back on the working people in the state of Alabama. If we're going to raise taxes, we need to look at a total comprehensive tax plan, which brings everybody to the table, so the least of these won't have to continue to carry the burden that we've always carried. Thank you.
What about, thank you, sir. I'm going to open it up to listen to you all, but I want to let you know why I did what I did. As your federal representative, I sought the help of the federal government to intercede on our behalf where I knew I could get them to intercede. What do I mean by that? The state of Alabama allowed linked voting to photo ID. Voting is a constitutionally protected right. Let me repeat that. Driving is not a constitutionally protected right. But voting is a constitutionally protected right. Now, when the state of Alabama issued that law, I fought that law because I frankly think that we who are from the Black Belt, we who are from this district, the 7th Congressional District, which is known as the Civil Rights District, we above all else know the cost that was fought, prayed for in blood, sweat, and tears for the right to vote. To put up any barrier that would cause you to have to spend more time, to make it harder for any one person, let alone a group of people, but any one person to try to vote who is eligible voting, to me, is not where we should be going. We should be about making it easier for people to vote. As it stands now, folks don't go out and vote when they can vote. We shouldn't be about putting up additional barriers. So I want to go on record and say I didn't support the state's photo ID law when it was implemented in 2011. But it went into effect in 2014 after the Shelby decision struck down federal oversight. And frankly, most of my colleagues from Alabama were rejoicing because we had come so far that we didn't need federal oversight. That's what people said. And actually, I hope that was not true, or that was true, that we had come so far that we didn't need federal oversight. I mean, I think all of us would hope that. But the reality is, you can't say that you must have a photo ID to vote, and then close down the very means by which people get photo ID, called a driver's license. So the state of Alabama opened the door for federal oversight by closing down those DMVs, especially in the areas of the rural Black Belt, but especially in those areas where out of the 31, 11 of them, or 10 of them, 10 of the highest concentrated of registered non-white voters are, 8 of them are on that list, 8 of the 10. Highest number of black voters in the state of Alabama, 8 of those 10 are included in the DMV closures. And while the Shelby decision struck down parts of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, it did not strike down all of it. There's still something called Section 2, which provides protection and puts the onus on the state to show that, in fact, what they have done, the decision that they have made, will not make it onerous on the ability of people to vote. Let me repeat that, because I want y'all to be very clear about your congresswoman. I think that the cuts that have been made to the park services, to the National Guard Armory, to all the essential services are unacceptable. All of them. Because they disproportionately affect one area, and that's rural Alabama. That's unfair. Those of us who have chosen to raise our families in smaller communities deserve to have same access to essential services as those who are in bigger cities. And we elect people just like those they do. Now, they may have more representatives because they're bigger populations. But we have a voice, and our voice must be heard. So, I was in my right, on behalf of all of you here, to ask for federal oversight when it came to the closures of the DMV offices. I don't apologize for it.
You don't have to.
I do not apologize for it. And I know that there are several young folks here from the high school who do have to have their administered test to drive, who will have to drive 45 minutes to Selma or to Tuscaloosa or to Montgomery in order to get a driver's license. Yeah. And that driver's license is used not just for voting. We all know that. People show it to get on the airplane through TSA. People show it in order to get passports. People show it in order to get liquor. That is, you had an ABC store, right? A little light humor. My mama's not here. A little light humor. But what I'm saying to you all is serious. I want you all to know that in order for folks to understand the magnitude of the impact, you must speak out. You must speak out. I know that every family reunion we went to Paul Grist State Park. Every class reunion, we had a picnic. Where? At the state park. I know that in emergencies, we look for our national armory, right? As shelters and other things. These are essential services. So we shouldn't apologize for demanding that which others in other communities already have. Right? We should not do that. So I want to just clear it up with you why it is that I sought federal oversight. I did because the state of Alabama gave me that opening, gave us that opening. You cannot close down the main means by which people give photo IDs, the driver's license, especially when, in order to get that photo ID to vote, you must sign an affidavit that you don't have a driver's license. You know it, right? And oh, by the way, when those mobile units come around, you must have your birth certificate with you. I don't know about you, but I don't walk around with my birth certificate. Or know where it is. So giving an alternative by having a board of registrars available in the same place, when people are being asked to have one or the other, which one would you choose? The other, the driver's license or the non-driving thing. And then to say, we've spent all this money to make sure that the electronic version of renewing your license works. That doesn't matter if you don't have access to broadband or home computer or don't want to stand in line at the library. Okay? Just because an alternative exists doesn't mean that alternative is effective. And by the Secretary of State's own admission, 250,000 people in the state of Alabama don't have a photo ID. That's a moderate number. 250,000 to 500,000 was actually what was quoted. And when you tell me that the Board of Registrars of these motor vehicles available, I say to you, they were available last election cycle. And what good did they do? 6,000 were issued out of 250,000 people who don't have IDs. 6,000. And oh, by the way, this past year, only 29 by mobile units. Why are we spending costs on a mobile unit? Open up my DMV. That's what I say, especially because it's a satellite office. So I'm going to stop preaching and allow you all to speak, and I want you to speak about how this will affect you, because we're both taking notes. This will help us in our arguments that we're making to the state about why it is our closures are disproportionately affecting this community and why it is we must keep them open. So I thank y'all for being here, but you didn't come here to listen to me. We came to listen to you. So remember the rules of the road. Melinda, Kennard, they all work for me, and they're going to hold the microphone and give you a limited amount of time to tell the testimonials, not to preach. Okay.
First, I want to, we have so many counties here.
We've been in 2 meetings with the governor of the state. Both meetings dealt with the DMV and Medicaid. We went on a meeting on yesterday with the governor, with Senator Singleton and other state officials, where the governor has conceded that this is not a bargaining chip. He was trying to bargain for legislators in rural Alabama to vote for a tax increase. We said emphatically no. So that shows you that this DMV closure is not about budget. It's about politics. It is affecting us in so many different ways in Perry County, Hale County, Wilcox, all these black belt counties. But I do want to bring some good news. And that good news is that today the governor met with the head of the law enforcement office. And today they were to come with a rationale and a reason and a schedule to reopen the DMVs in Black Belt, Alabama. Now, it's one thing to get on the microphone, and I want to thank our Congresswoman because she brought a light to a very important issue. and I told some state officials, she shouldn't have to come from Washington to handle something that we elected y'all to do. Now, we're going to work with the governor so that the governor can issue this statement by tomorrow, and these DMV offices will be open by next week. That's why Senator Sanders said train or whatever they come out doing, not going to happen. Not going to happen because when you can sit down reasonably and talk and share facts and issues and want a result. I don't want no headline, I want results. That's what you all want. Yes. And I don't need us shouting and crying and wallowing in the floor about the DMV office closed. We were getting 1 day a week, 4 hours a day in Perry County. And if that man give us 1 day, a whole day from 8 to 5, we've improved when he really thought he was hurt. But Governor Bentley is in a very particular situation. He can't control the Republicans in Montgomery. He can't control the Democrats in Montgomery. And all he's doing is just sitting there, watching them women. So, I ain't been speak through yet. She put it on it now. But I want to tell y'all this here, as I let some of y'all I'm going to let you all talk. Let me say this last thing. On the Medicaid issue, we would have had a surplus in our state budget had we received the Medicaid money. What he has done was put together a task force. That task force has recommended that the governor receive and sign on to Medicaid. The governor said that he will sign the document to receive the Medicaid funding as soon as the task force gives him the official report. They gave him a preliminary report, and that preliminary report, it recommended that he receive that money. So I believe in my heart of hearts that before this year is out, the state of Alabama will sign this agreement and receive the Medicaid funding, and the state will receive that money.
Awesome. Great. All right. So now.
And look how well they done with a lot of people leaving out of our state, spending the money in other states, and they getting all the results. We get nothing. Absolutely nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Over here. I'm going to step in front of the mayor right here.
I have a two-part question. One, my father has a dental practice in Selma since 1978, where he has treated children on Medicaid, a vast number from all of the counties in the Black Belt. So I understand personally from the time I was small and watched how Medicaid benefited the children of our counties for dental care that they would not have had otherwise. So I'm very much in favor of Medicaid expansion by my own personal experience for 43 years watching the children of our counties and what they need. So my question though becomes, if it is implemented by the governor, how long does that take for us to see the funds, and how long does it take for those funds that reach us to then affect things like the state park and other items we discussed? Secondly, I, along with everyone in here, our hearts are in these state parks. Yes. That's where our memories are, that's where our families are, our hearts are there. So my question is there anything that the federal government can do or the National Park Service can do? What are the federal options to help?
Very good. Two very good questions. Well, it obviously takes time for the money to trickle throughout the communities. But which is why those of us who made it available had hoped that we would seize upon it on the first year it was offered, not the second, third year. So to answer your question, it's an immediate impact in the sense that the spigot turns on, but you have to sign up those folks who are in that gap. They need to know that they now can qualify. So as new recipients go on, the money will flow. So the answer to that is it's going to take some time. So the second part of your question, which is very important, can the federal government do anything on the state parks?
We can't do anything about the lottery. So the answer is that, unfortunately, there's not a match. Just like I told you there was a match with the National Guard Armory, federal to state match, there is no such match with the state park. But the Department of Interior does have grants that they offer. And in fact, one of the ways when we were thinking about how we could help Roland Cooper to get that launch so that they can get more of those tournaments, that was one of the options that we looked at. The state stepped into the plate, though, before we could do that. So the amount of money that is available for state parks from the federal government are very small and highly competitive. So we've got to figure out a way that we can get the state of Alabama to step up to the plate for our state parks. We do. And the reality is that Roland Cooper is owned by the U.S., the Army Corps of Engineers, right? The Corps of Engineers owns it. And they lease it to the state of Alabama. So I understand that tomorrow evening is when it goes into effect. And so our hope is that either a county or city entity will step into its place. Now, what I'm going to ask the governor is that, as I understand it, when you first get on with the lease, there's all kinds of studies, environmental studies and things of the like, that have to be done in order to do a lease with the Corps of Engineers. Is there a way that the federal government could be a subletter to the city or the county so that you don't have to incur all those costs in order to take it over? We have to be creative, guys. The whole point is to try to keep the parks open until we can get more money in our coffers so that the state can step up to its own obligations. But like you, I have so many fond memories of the state park in Paul Grist. I shared some with you. So it's important that we figure out a way. And I don't know if Commissioner Moulton wants to speak a little bit about what you guys are looking at too,
I think we're going to go to that next. I think do we have a question on this side? Right here.
Me and my husband, we are moving back to our state, and we come from Molina, Florida. So I've been here about 2 months. We are resident, filed for resident, but I know it's time to change my driving license because I'm a sole driver. I have to drive all over, taking him to and from his doctor. And I went to the office yesterday where I thought the office were, and they told me I had to go to Selma because I'm a resident coming in with a different license with the state. And with another state.
And had you had a valid DMV, even if the DMV office was open, you would still have to go to Selma? Is that what they told you?
No, I wouldn't. Okay. I would just change it just like we changed it in Florida.
Great. That's great to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Right there.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and I've been in the civil rights movement since 1961.
An original foot soldier.
Yeah. What I wanted to do was I need to ask a question about the stimulus money. See, when the stimulus money was offered to us, we could have brought this state out of a financial problem then. They refused it. They said we didn't need it. As a matter of fact, I was working in Birmingham at Jefferson County Nursing Home, and the only county nursing home in the state was closed. After I retired, I think about a couple of years or so after I retired. Not only that, Cooper Green Hospital was closed. And we have to take all of this stuff under consideration. We're in trouble because these Republicans are not supporting anything, even if it hurt them. I'm saying it hurts people who are sick and something,
with all due respect, we're going to keep it nonpartisan. Because I think the issue...
But early on in years, there was a woman who had a baby, and my mother delivered the baby. My mother was a nurse, and the woman went into labor. She didn't have no money to go to the clinics and stuff like that. And I was sent to the telephone. At that time, didn't have phones, and a lot of folks didn't have phones in the house. I sent to the telephone. I called. It was Hillman Hospital then. It's now university. And I went to the phone, and this is what they said. Do not bring her here. We will not touch her. But when the baby is born, we will look at the baby if you bring the baby. Now, fortunately, the delivery went fine. There was no problem. But if it had been some problems, it would have been a bad night then. But my mother had been a nurse before she had all of us, and she delivered the baby. And that's also a reason everybody should have help. If she didn't have help.
Yes, ma'am. And also, I think that all of us know that our rural hospitals are in trouble as well. I think the combination of the state budget cuts and just all around the lack of revenues are really dramatically affecting rural Alabama. And so I really ask you, what are you going to do about it? We have got to make sure that we speak up and speak out.
Mayor?
We do.
I'm going to have the mayor. He has a question and a comment as well.
Congresswoman, we certainly appreciate the passion that you're bringing to this issue. Representative Lawrence, we appreciate your help. It doesn't take a very smart person. I can figure this out, that these DMV offices need to stay open. Yeah. The state park, every public servant that comes through this area says, we're going to do something to help this area. That's the number one thing they can do to change the perception of our area. Yes. All these fishermen that come in from out of town and their families, they get a lot better. They read what's in the paper, in the Birmingham News or whatever, about how bad a place this is, and they come in and see it's a great place. So we need to keep that park open. The city of Camden has already, just for this year, has invested $5,000 into this bass tournament that's going to come in. So we don't want to lose it. So we appreciate your help.
Thank you, sir. I have a question. We have a question back there, right?
If they told the National Guard Army will be voting, where we gonna vote? Because we stay on the outside the city limit on 28th. So they told the National Guard Army, so how you gonna vote?
So that means that the county and the city will have to come up with an alternative polling place. You will have an opportunity to vote. It's just where you would have to go. And so they would have to figure that out. But that's a very good point that the National Guard Armory also is a polling place.
I'll let Melvin speak to that.
Good evening. We are thankful that we are all here. And I think I speak for most of us from Wilcox County. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Because every time something happens, it happens on the back of those who are less fortunate. And the National Guard Armory, the State Park, the DMV, they mean everything to our community. We have very little now, and the more services you cut, the less we have. But take note, and we're in church, when all God's children get together, oh, what a time. We can make a difference.
Absolutely.
We can change it.
Absolutely. So, Ralph, can you talk to us a little bit about, as circuit clerk, what you've seen in terms of people's complaints with respect to the DMV or the state park?
Well, of course, we have our chamber members here. We talked about the bass tournaments and the effect that it has on our economy. I heard one person from our registrar's office say, well, it's not going to affect because they can come down there and get a photo ID. But we, in Wilcox County, we have approximately 1 mile of 4-lane highway. 1 mile. And if someone has to go to Selma, Montgomery, Birmingham, Mobile, Huntsville, and take a driving test on 4-lane, 6-lane, 8-lane highways that they have never had an opportunity to drive on, then it's an automatic setup for failure. And then when you have to repeat, oftentimes people don't pass that test the first time. They have to go back again. And living on limit, I mean, in the circuit clerk's office, we have to subpoena at least 200 people just to try to get enough people to select a jury from, because most of the people in Wilcox County don't have transportation to get over here. We pay $10 a day and 5 cents a mile. So money becomes an issue for poor people. All of us are not affected that way. I thank God I'm not. But a lot of us are.
Great. So we have a question over here.
I don't really have a question, but I wanted to answer your question. Earlier you asked what the effect the campers who come into Rowan Cooper State Park would have, and I'm the executive director of Black Belt Treasures. And for 10 years, we've been involved in tourism. And on a routine basis, we have visitors from the state park who come to make purchases with us. But they don't stop there. They go on down the street to Coast, or they go to the local restaurants. They stop at the gas station. It is going to have an impact. I can't give you an exact number, but it will have an impact on our community, even beyond the fisherman or the hunter. We see their wives a lot as a result. But it's very important to our community for many different ways in terms of tourism.
Thank you. Very good point.
Congresswoman, we have a question right here.
Good evening to Congresswoman Terri Sewell. My comment is about the state park. A lot of us fail to realize that the state parks impact more than just adults. It also impacts children, and it impacts our young adults, especially our teenagers. The reason why I'm bringing this out is because I have 2 teenage daughters that have been fortunate enough to go down to the state park and to have had an opportunity to stay at the lodging, which is one of the cabins that's down there, with their family that came in to have a family gathering. They had a family gathering at the state park. They stayed at the cabin. Okay, well, I have a daughter, and her dream idea was, Mom, can you rent me one of the cabins and you go with me with some of my friends and go to the state park? They want to go camping, they want to go hiking, they want to go fishing. They just want to enjoy the outside. It really shocked me, but guess what? They feel like that they're secluded, they're away from everybody, they're in the cabin, they can cook, they can watch TV, they can watch movies and everything, so they won't be bothering anybody because they're out there at the cabin and it's not jammed up on each other. So we need to think about our small children also, and also our families. Sometimes families get together and go to the state park and they grill out, they cook out, they have family gatherings down there. It's just not about the bass tournament, and it's just not about the fishing. It's other recreational activities down there that will also, I'm speaking on behalf of the children and our teenagers that also enjoy these activities that some of us have no clue about, because guess what? Adults, most of us can get where we want to go. But teenagers, we can't.
Very good point. Very good point.
We're going to come back up here, Congresswoman, with a question. Hi. You can stand up.
Hello, everybody. I want to tell you how I feel about this. I feel like it is a slap in the face for citizens who believe that that is our right. That's our birthright. We're Alabamians, we're Americans, and for a group of people to take it upon themselves, and I've heard them described as they, I think it's outrageous. And I think that Alabamians ought to be standing up shoulder to shoulder across the state saying, we are not electing you and sending you to Montgomery for you to treat us this way. And another thing I feel about this is that Governor Bentley might want to apologize to the people of Alabama, because for him to be selling our office of the governor to people in private industry who paid for, didn't y'all hear that it was the Alabama Power Company who had one position paid for up there, and I don't know what the other corporation was who paid for another office up there. I didn't know that the governor's office sold stock. Did you guys? And I also do not believe that when he said he was going to serve without charging anything, he wasn't going to take a salary. You don't need a salary when you've got all that going on and our people are being sold down the river. So what I believe is that we are due an apology, and that we are due the legislature coming back without being paid for out of the Special Education Trust Fund, which is where they got the money for the expenses and all. They need to come back to Montgomery as a volunteer service to the people that they have not taken care of, and say, we're going to give you a money-back guarantee. And we're going to figure out a way to fix this. I think we're doing that.
Absolutely.
We have
So
one.
I want to make sure that you all are taking notes. Because you need to flood the governor's office, your state reps' offices, your state national park offices, and your armory. I hate to put everybody on the spot, but the reality is you have to make your voices heard somewhere. And this is a great start. But unless the folks that are making the decisions on our behalf know how we feel, we're just talking to each other. Okay? So I want to urge that. The other thing is, I also want to tell and make sure you know that the other National Guard armories that closed, I know the city was able, or the county was able to buy those National Guard armories to use as community centers and get some funding from ADECA. It's competitive, it's not guaranteed, but can turn those National Guard armories into other facilities to be used by the community. That's just an option. I wanted to make sure that I carried that information, pass that information on, that it doesn't have to sit idle. But I also know that we need to fight for the services that are being taken from us by making an appeal to the people who are making this decision on our behalf.
One question. So how you, but as an educator, we have approximately 500 students over at the high school between the age probably 15 and 19. They need driver license. And now, not only the law says you have to go to school, but we're setting them up for at least 2 days a year to miss school. Because you have to go and get your permit, wait 6 months later, and get your license. And in addition to that, if the parents have a job, they got to miss 2 days of work, so they have to sign. And also, 2017, you're coming up with this Star ID. Yeah. I can't go visit your office unless I have a driver license state issue ID with the color. Yep. And also, when I want to fly on a plane, I got to have a state issue ID. The voter's ID is good for Wilcox County, but I can't leave the state of Alabama on a plane unless I have a state issue ID. Yes. And now, with the number of students we have leaving school and parents, that's a hardship.
I think we have opportunity for just 2 more questions. One back there, and then one up here. 2 comments.
Good evening, Congresswoman Sewell. Good evening. I think that we should invite our governor to Wilcox County so he can see how things are here. So he'll know his direct impact on the people that he is setting back at this particular point in time. The only way he can see his impact is if he feels it himself. He should spend at least 2 days here so he'll know how things are in Wilcox County.
Well, I want you to know that I plan on making my voice heard for you when I see the governor later this week. That's the whole point of me being able to have a town hall meeting and to listen and take copious notes, my staff is, to make sure that we can put a face to the services that are being taken away. Yep.
You asked the question of how it impacts us. One thing is, like, we got a lot of people here, it's a rural area, that are only driven here. Yeah. You know, and they don't know nothing about other cities and travel there. And second of all, jobs, like my job, you got to have driver's license to get hired there. We already, lack a job, and then that puts another thing on them that they got to deal with. And then medicine, you got to show your IV license to get certain type of medicine. You got to show it to go to the hospital. You got somebody that has been sick and everything, and all of a sudden they become ill, then they got to worry about getting that to even get medicine. So it's a lot of things that is going to hurt you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your testimony.
I have a comment here from Mayor Evans of the City of Selma.
Well, good evening, everybody. You're so used to holding the mic. It's so unusual, but it's good. I want to, again, congratulate Congresswoman Sewell for her leadership and her style in getting this done as she does in all of our districts. But I want to say that, we have some issues in Selma concerning the Congress, and I know the county government is working with city government to try to find ways to partnership in doing some things on that. And I know that what I'm going to say is that, to me, it looks like we have a problem, and you all in the Camden area and Wilcox have a greater problem than we do, in my opinion. And I'm saying it because I recognize that as being a real concern, as we as family need to try to find a way, as Congressman, through the partnership, to find a way to help each other. I think that's important. I've been to roller over years. I played golf down there when I was regular playing and fishing, things like that. But I know the importance of that park and the things that it does here in this community. And I think it's essential that we find ways to save that park and other parks in our Black Belt area. And lastly, what I'll say is, Congressman Sewell, I'll ask you, I know that all of these items and areas that we're talking about tonight, is no way that we can get them all back. My question is, can we find, try to prioritize those areas that we believe that we can win at getting back, and identify those ones that we have a chance at winning, that we work on trying to identify and work hard on pursuing that? Because if we go at all of them, trying to eat the whole apple, we won't hardly win all of them. So are there any that you can think off the top of your head, and maybe it takes time, you're using your staff?
So I think that we should concentrate on the DMV and the parks. And I think that has the biggest impact. So to your point, I think that it's the easiest to get them to open up satellite offices where they're not firing anybody. Those are easy to get them to open back up. Now, finding resources for our parks. And what was disturbing to me is that because the cuts have been so pervasive in our state parks, the reality is that when I spoke to the state park director, he said, you know, we never envisioned parks having to make money. But the reality is that they're looking at the money's lost and the money it costs to keep the doors open and the maintenance of these parks, and that's how they're making their decision based on whether or not they're money makers. Now, I get that you guys are just beginning to start making some money in the state park with these bass tournaments and stuff, but the reality is it's not fair that Gunner and others get to keep theirs open and we don't. You know that, right? So I think that we have to make a real logical argument that parks are essential services. The recreation and the use of, especially in this day and age when we see people being praised, cities being praised for green space. You know, City of Birmingham got this big old write-up because of Railroad Park and all the green space. Well, in rural America, the green space are parks. And we need to make sure that we keep them open. So I don't mean to speak for everybody, but I think that we have a legitimate federal argument to keep the DMV open, and I believe that we can make a very legitimate state essential services argument to keep the parks open. And you know, I plan on battling it out on the National Guard Armory, since the federal government gives $600 million a year on the armory. So, you know, I just think, I agree with you, Mayor, we have to prioritize. I think that we, you know, need to switch our gears and start fighting for these parks. Okay? I'm not saying it's in addition to, not instead of, in addition to.
We have a question back here. As an advocate for youth, I just want to piggyback off Ms. McConaughey's statement. I know that there are some organizations around that are trying to stop Boy Scouts, and there are some Girl Scout troops around, and the park is a resource for camping and other activities. What will our alternatives be for that?
Very good. No, I don't have an alternative. That's why we have to fight to keep these parks that we have open, to make sure, because once they close, y'all know, it becomes, you know, how are you going to ensure the vagrants don't take over our parks and other things? They become, in my opinion, a real safety and security issue for the community. So I think that there are a lot of things that are wrapped up in that, which is why I want y'all to get on the phone and call the governor tomorrow.
And Congresswoman, you know that your Congresswoman is extremely passionate, and many people have spoken on behalf of the students here. But if there's a student, we would like a student that's in high school, or one of you that are in the leadership program, to share your concerns about how these budget cuts are going to affect your community. Is there one of our students that would like to share?
Can you look it up?
We have a question over here.
Hey, my name is Samantha Gomez. I'm not a high school student, but I just finished college, and I grew up here. I'm a native of Wilcox County. I grew up here. I was educated here, and I love my home. And I just returned home just because I wanted to spend some time here. I wanted to offer some of my services, and one of the things I was always taught was, you know, when you're educated in your hometown, you leave and you get more education, and you come back, and then you give to those who's given to you. You know, you give to their children, and you know, and you teach. And I feel like that is part of my responsibility, and I do take that seriously. That's part of why I'm back here. But when there are such rash cuts that are happening, and it feels oppressive, really. And the fact that it's happening, it dampens the hopes and the ambitions of the people who do come back to try to like, you know, help the other kids, or, you know, bring hope back to the community. And it kind of drives us away because we don't know where to go from here. Like, but another thing I can say is, if you can have the right perspective about it, you can. I have an activist spirit, like, so I feel like, you know, this is the right place to be at the right time. So I really appreciate you coming out to support us and to talk to us. And
well, I appreciate you coming back home. I think it's really important that our kids know that they have an opportunity. And I don't want us to end this evening being gloom, because we know that we as a community have done far more with less. Time and time again. That we reach deep in our own spirits when the chips are down. We don't give up. And so it may require us as a community to fight harder together, but I swear it'll make us stronger. So I don't want to put the governor on blast without putting myself on blast. You can feel free to call my office in Selma or my office in Birmingham. The number in Birmingham office is 205-254. If you picked up any of the materials, all of our numbers are on the back of our materials. So on the back of the annual report, well, actually on the front of the annual report. And my offices are, I'm now going to put my staff on blast. We'll keep a list, because we plan on bringing a petition with us. So we'll keep a list of all the people who want to add their name, their voices to be heard about being upset about the closures. And the Selma office is probably the closest office to this, and the phone number there is 334-877-4414. And so make sure that you either call our governor's office, which is 334-242-7000, and the other note,
Chief of Staff.
The Chief of Staff is 334-242-7343. We're going to leave both here. And I'm sure the Representative Lawrence wants to give him your number too.
We don't want to put just one person on board.
Absolutely.
All elected officials. We want to hear from you.
My direct number is 334-303-5244.
So we have a student who wants to say something.
We have Layla Jenkins, who's in the 3rd grade, and she's from Camden. We're going to hear from Layla, representing the elementary. We have a junior high school and high school. Layla, what do you have to say to the Congresswoman? She can't hear you, Layla. Hold your head up.
I want to have a fight for me, for the Girl Scout.
Yeah. You a Girl Scout, Layla? Okay.
Thank you, Layla.
My name is Shirley McCunco, and I'm from Camden, Alabama. And I wanted to say that on behalf of the park, that my family usually gathers at the park every year for their family gathering. And this year we had to move to a school because of the fact that the park was closing. So, and then in the case of the driver's license, I'm going to be 15 in 2 more years, and when I get ready to get my permit or whatever I want to do, if I go to 7 and say if I don't pass it, then I'm going to have to spend extra money on gas going back up there to go take the test again.
And have somebody in your family take you, right?
Yes, ma'am, not certainly for my pass test.
Damn. Awesome. All right. Out of the mouths of babes, right?
Good evening. I am Clanlisa Yeladasia Jackson. I am currently a student at Wilcox Central High School. I am a senior, and I'm also the senior class president. When it was word out that the DMV was closed, the driver's place was closed, my classmates were very, very affected. They talked about it amongst themselves. Oh my God, the place is shut down. I was getting ready to take my test. Now I have to go all the way to Selma. I have to go all the way to Tuscaloosa just to take a driver's test. Who wants to go through all that? No, not me. I'm fortunate enough to have already taken my test, but it has affected my peers. And if they hurt, I'm hurting, you know. And we barely have much in Wilcox County, and they just keep taking it away. They keep taking more and more and more. And when we are affected and we go through these things, people lose hope. So people who were going to take the test in Wilcox, they feel like it's too much for them to go to Selma. They're not going to do it. And shit, help us. Please help us.
Okay. I'm going to, one last comment from Commissioner Moten.
And one more after him. This gentleman's been waiting.
Well, let's do it. Okay, come on.
I won't hold you up very long, but we had a town meeting of concerned citizens one day last week. We had a house full of local people. But I was very concerned and impressed when I saw all of the campers that came from the Rolling Cooper State Park to that meeting. And they were more concerned, actually, than some of our own people around here about that park closing. And we also, the city, operates the Bridgeport Landing. And we started out 2 or 3 years ago. We had 12 or 15 people that paid the fees. We were just glad to get that. And we're still doing it, and we've done it for 2 or 3 years. And what I want to emphasize is that people don't come from this only Camden. They come from the Panhandle of Florida, Daphne, Mississippi, Tennessee. And see, we don't have the money here, but the people that come here, they got money. And we appreciate that. But we robbed that box this morning. We got 50 envelopes out. And I go through them when we get them, and I see the names of where they come from. And they repeat people. They come, like they're from everywhere. And so that's just a little part that we got for the city. And we need Rolling Cooper. They just put in a new ramp down there for that tournament. And that lady, Miss Kay Donaldson, fell in love with this area. And she's done all she can to help us. And we want to try to help ourselves as much as we can, but we can't do it on our little old county. So we depend on the outside people is what we will. And there's a lot of things that they like besides just fishing, you know, bird watchers and all that. So we got eagles down there that people come and look at. I just want you to continue to help us. And everybody else in here, we need everybody's help. Thank you.
Commissioner Moten.
I want to say, first of all, thank you to Congresswoman Sewell for coming to Wilcox County. I want to thank the mayor of Camden and all the dignitaries that's here today. I had the privilege of traveling around with the Congresswoman today as she visited the National Guard in the state park. And I got to see firsthand her passion for what she do. I serve on the Wilcox County Commission along with 5 other commissioners. Commissioner Lawson is here, Commissioner McIntosh and Albritton is out in training, and they couldn't be here today, and I don't see Commissioner Powell or Commissioner Green. But I want to say to the city of Camden, to Wilcox County, we're committed from the county level to do whatever we can to save our state parks, to save our DMV offices, to save our National Guard Armory, and if we can't save them, we run them. I envisioned, when I ran for office, I envisioned this. Wilcox County is coming together for a greater cause. We have an opportunity, for the first time since I've been in office, to stand with one voice. See, the problem we have in the past, everybody's calling Montgomery talking about a whole different story. Everybody's telling their own story. We need to be one voice. Commissioner Albert Turner gave a great example of what you can do when you go with a plan to Montgomery. We don't need to go to Montgomery, everybody singing a different tune. We need to stop making phone calls, the separate phone calls. Let's come together, get around the table like we did on last Thursday. Let's discuss ideas, and let's go to Montgomery with one voice, and let that voice be heard, and it's Wilcox County's voice. I want to thank you again for coming. This is an awesome crowd, and we want to continue to fight, but it needs to be a Wilcox County fight. Congresswoman Sewell, she talked to the National Guard's people today, and I saw that she had some control there because there was some federal connections with the National Guard. She has federal connections with the DMV officers, but our state parks, she don't have any federal connections there. So it's going to come from the state level and the county level, the city levels, the municipalities. We got to come together to do what we need to do to save our community. You heard the young people talk. You've heard the older people talk. You've heard the elected officials talk. You've heard the congresswoman talk. You've heard mayors talk. Now we need to talk with one voice. This is our time. This is Wilcox County time. Wilcox County matters, and we need to take that statement to Montgomery. Thank you.
Amen. What a great way to end.
Pastor, your congresswoman has your voice, and she is speaking loud and clearly for you in Washington. Can we take one last question? I promise.
That's my chief of staff, and I say yes.
I am Jessica Collins. I work at the Roland Cooper State Park. I cleaned my desk out today. The last day is tomorrow. I want you, if you could, to ask the governor how is he going to help us. They cut the cable off today, and the golf course went out today. So how are you going to help us keep my job up? You know, that's how I want to know. So,
thank you. So as the Pastor Dearden, as he gets ready to give the benediction, I want you all to look around the room and make a commitment to each other that we're going to work together, as the commissioner said, with one voice. And that voice needs to be heard not just locally, not just in the state, but nationally as well. And I make a commitment that whatever that voice is, you will have a voice in Washington echoing the same thing. But it has to come from the community. Remember, nothing happens at the top. It starts from the bottom and bubbles up to the top. And so we've got to put pressure on the folks who are making these decisions to see that they affect real people, our communities, and that we're not going to take it sitting down. So let's not give up hope, guys. Let's not give up hope. I'm a little girl who grew up in Selma. All things are possible for those who love the Lord, who have wonderful communities and support systems around them. So this is a great community. And its greatness comes from within, not from what people give you, but what we do for ourselves. I'm going to repeat that. It's what we do for ourselves. So let's work hard, neighbor to neighbor, and be committed to one another. Thank y'all for coming out.
Pastor Dear.
And make sure you make the calls tomorrow. Make calls. Let's make calls.
I would like to thank each and every one of you, representatives, for coming on all levels to be with us here this evening. Thank each and every one of you for coming, joining a town hall meeting here. Thank you. Together we'll stand. Divided we'll fall. Let us give the benediction. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with us all. Amen.
Thanks for coming.